Okay, let's talk phase 1. I'm going to jump quickly to this. I'm not going to do everything. Like I said, I'm going to stick around at the end for a little while if you want to ask questions. But I'm just going to share a couple of my issues. You need to make a folder structure, and this folder structure needs to continue right to phase 3. I get a lot, and when we did provincial moderation last year, we only find the 3rd phase. Then how are you going to allocate the mark for the folder structure? In other words, when I allocate the mark for a folder structure, then you must make sure that that folder structure that's contained in the report is in fact the folder structure that you see in front of you. Because some kids are beautiful. They can make smart art, I'm telling you, but whether they can use it and save their work in there, that's questionable. Note that you can allocate some of the marks already from phase 1 to phase 3. I'll make you aware. But if you look at this, electronic hard copies of all documents, I don't think there's hard copies anymore. But yeah, for whatever reason there might be, you can allocate that mark. Logical folder structure, I'm very strict there. Ne? I don't give that mark or the next one or the next one. If I see page 1, page 2, page 3. If I see 7 documents in Word and I have no idea why you've got 7. If I in phase 3, if I don't see, or I see the 3 the web pages, but I don't know which one's the one that I'm supposed to open first. And then I have to play around and go like, oh shucks, which one now? No, ini mini mo, this one. And then I chose the wrong one. So all files organized into a logical folder structure. Structure is easy to find and navigate, and meaningful folder and file names used throughout. Okay? Right, so you create your report, and I'm going to spend some time on some of the things and some I'm just going to run through. It's easy. Your name, your surname, your school, your subject, your plat topic, and a content control for the abstract. If you, I'm sorry, this is phase 3, ne? If you want to mark phase 3 in phase 1, you are more than welcome. Ne? This is phase 3 mark allocations. But if the name of the school is not there, I don't give that 3rd mark. And if they have 1 content control, or if they've got 7 content controls, but it's appropriate to what's available on the page, I give the 2nd mark. The abstract should be a content control, so leave that for phase 3, but you can allocate the first 3 marks already in phase 1.
Fotiene? There's a question. Can we create a dashboard for Pat?
What does that mean? Can the person that asked that question, let me go to our chats. And I can't open my chat. Chanel? What does that mean? Who was in Word? In Word, add hyperlinks. Where? Where? Which where?
1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
To all relevant documents. You mean in the folder structure? Yes, you can. But remember, I'm assuming you mean in the folder structure. Yeah, in the folder structure. Okay. You probably can, but if you don't, you can't penalize the learners. But it would be a good idea. For example, I like to add hyperlinks to the table to my sources. Someone's making me echo. Okay. So if you want to create, for example, the report in phase 1, but remember now you're creating that folder structure in phase 1, so they need to continue with it until phase 3. Ne? So if you want that hyperlinks to phase 1, 2, and 3, that's not a problem. But in the end, you basically do this in phase 1. They need to go back and basically add the hyperlinks when they're in phase 2 and add the hyperlinks in phase 3. Someone's saying I'm not supposed to be here. Okay. Right. Headings in the report. So in the report, we're going to do a Word document. You're going to start with a cover page, and in your cover page, you're going to have your name and surname, the topic, the school, and content control for the abstract. Okay. On the second page, you're going to have a heading that says table of content, possibly table of figures, and then these headings: introduction, task definition, focus question, discussion and analysis, findings, conclusion, bibliography, appendices, are all going to be on its own page in phase 1. So basically, we're going to create an empty report now, nothing in it. And as we move along to completing phase 1, doing phase 2, doing phase 3, we're just going to continue adding things into our report, so that by the time we get to phase 3, we've got the whole report completed. Okay, so this is phase 1, which we're giving marks for one document. If I find something in another document, I don't give that mark, because the PAT clearly states one single document with all of these things. And I'm also very strict when it comes to headings. The headings need to all be there now in phase 1. So if they miss one, findings, I do not give the second mark. I'm also talking from provincial moderation experience. So if one of those headings are not there, I do not give that mark. And then the addendum with the diagram and the screenshot of the actual folder structure is included, and the evidence of the sources we'll give a bit later. But now we've created the report and it's empty, but there's stuff. So we'll give some marks. Okay, your formatting of your headings, I'm not going to go through this, but what's important to me is the fact that this is phase 3, ne? When you create those headings, there are headings and there are subheadings. Introduction is a heading. Findings and discussion, or findings and not body and discussion, what is it called again? Discussion and analysis is one heading. Findings is a heading. So when you create your headings, make sure that you use styles. Okay, look at the mark allocation in phase 3. Headings stand out with or without styles. Styles are used. In other words, if they've done bigger font or whatever, and I click on the heading and it's not one of the styles, I don't give the second mark. Different levels of heading styles are clearly distinguished. If you want to look at the appendices will have 3 things. It will have the folder structure, the declaration, and the table. So you can go appendices style 1, for example, and then folder structure, table, source table, and declaration would be a second style. Now, if kids use different sizes and they don't use different styles, they get the first mark and the third mark. If they use the correct styles, and when I say correct, I mean all the headings must be the same style and the subheadings must be a different style, then they can get mark number 2 and mark number 4, right? I don't blindly give mark number 4, because heading styles are used to ensure that headings are formatted in a consistent way. If they didn't use styles, they can't get the 4th mark. I know it looks consistent, but it's not heading styles, right? And styles are used to give headings due prominence. In other words, you must use your word processing skills to be able to get your full marks, if I can say it like that. So the fact that they make one 16 and the other one 12 can give them a first mark and a third mark, but not a second and a 4th mark. Okay, I hope that's clear. And I'm talking from experience at provincial, ne? Okay, let's look at the appendices. You've got 3 things in your appendices, ne? The folder structure, the source table, and the declaration. Look at my headings, ne? Appendices looks different from folder structure, source table, and declaration. Let your kids make a second style for whatever's underneath appendices, right? So this is still phase 1, ne? So an addendum with a diagram and a screenshot of the actual folder structure is included. Here I'm very strict. if that structure, that beautiful smart art that you made in phase 1 and you put it underneath appendices and you think it's beautiful and it doesn't actually look like your folder structure, I will not give you that mark. No, someone's asking, with the folder structure, should it include the documents like your example or only the actual folders? In phase 1, there will be a document. You can already make a database and a spreadsheet because you know you're going to do it. And in phase 3, obviously, you will have the report, but you're still busy with it in phase 1. But the website, we won't know. You can make it homepage and whatever, and then later on add it. But I'm not strict. Remember, we're marking this at the end of phase 1, basically. Where am I? Okay. There. We're marking this at the end of phase 1. So in other words, whatever needs to be in phase 1 needs to be in phase 1. Note that I've got folders, and when you actually open completed questionnaires, there's nothing because I haven't done it yet. I'm in phase 1 now. And privacy report, I've actually made the report in phase 1, but I could have made a folder for report in phase 2. So now, if you look at my example, it's actually just the privacy report to demonstrate to you that you're going to copy the same one into phase 2 and you're going to copy the same one into phase 3. But I think it's a good idea to make them make the folders already, at least. That's the point, else why are we giving a mark? Okay, moving on. We gave that one now, also in phase 1. And then the page layout. Note that this is phase 3. Ne? So when they create the report in phase 1, we tell them to have headings, ne? And we tell them we want the minimum headings. And we tell them that there should be page numbers. And we tell them that these page numbers should be set according to sections. Look at second mark. That's phase 3, ne? So in other words, how do you force sections? I force sections by forcing them, I'm going to force them to do the appendices pages in landscape. Then I'm forcing page section breaks. So then I'm practicing how to insert page numbers while I'm busy. I show them how to insert page numbers so that they know for different sections, different page numbers. Also force them to change the page numbers for this second section. In other words, remember this is only phase 3, ne? So they don't have to do it in phase 1, but they could, and then you can go and mark it already in the third phase's spreadsheet. So the Excel spreadsheet ne, that you use to electronically mark. So basically, if you would want to, you would force them in phase 1 to get all these marks. Page breaks. If I don't find a page break, I don't give the third mark. How do you make a page break? Between each heading, let each heading be on a separate page. Let the appendices be in landscape. Let the rest of the document be in portrait. Then you force in sections. Look at question, at least mark number 2 and mark number 4. Mark number 2 says that the page numbering is appropriate per section, and mark number 4 says there are sections. In other words, they can put the last page on landscape or the last few pages on landscape, but if there are no page numbers on the last pages, I do not give the second mark, even if they follow up right through to the end, because it says set appropriately per section. So we're forcing them to have a different page numbering sequence on their appendices pages. If there's no numbers there, I do not give them the second mark. Phase 3, ne? Okay, then the task definition. I know many people are following my example of having the heading task definition, and then they have like 4 different questions underneath it. What is the current situation? What will the focus and purpose of my investigation be? I'm just going to jump to the next one. How will I go about, and who is the target audience? Now, show the learners this. What is the current situation? What's the aspect chosen? and what is currently happening. People are stealing information, I know, but let them write that down. What will the focus and purpose be? In other words, what am I going to investigate? What am I doing? Am I looking at social media? Am I looking at the Poppy Act and the implications of the Poppy Act? What are the parts that I'm going to research? Because if you look at the task definition is actually going to guide your research later on. So what will the focus and purpose be? I'm going to look at what it costs people to get their identity back. I'm going to look at how many people have been affected by identity theft, and I'm going to look at how I can stop identity theft. For example, that's the focus of my research. So we're getting, let me say this, are we getting stricter or are we getting more lenient when it comes to these things? One sentence is enough, but the one sentence must answer the question. If that sentence does not answer the what is the current situation, what will the focus be? How will I go about the investigation, and who is the target audience? Sentences, but it must answer the question. If it doesn't answer the question, you can't blindly go and give a mark. Now, I had a question when I was doing this with the provincial subject advisors. They asked, how will I go about the investigation considering all the PAP requirements? Depending on what your district decides. In other words, are we going to accept if they only mention they're going to use Word, Excel, and Access? Or are we going to actually, what can I say? Only accept it if they go and explain what everything is used for. It's one mark, but I think we all need to be clear on they can't just mention. Remember, I'm a very big fan of discrimination against people that put in the effort and people that don't. So the kid that puts in the effort should get the mark, and the kid that doesn't put in the effort will not get that mark. So describe the steps you are required to follow in each of the phases and indicate how you intend to collect and manipulate the data. If you're going to say, I'm going to collect the data from the internet, then I'm not going to give you that mark. Okay, and who's the target audience? My school. That's not enough. Okay, first four marks. So basically, they need to answer the question. If I read it, and remember, we read many PATs. If they don't answer what is the current situation, and they only focus on what they read from the PAT, then I don't get that mark. Yes, slide's not updating. Marika, let's go to the next slide. There we go. So let's talk about the focus question. Yeah, just run everything on that slide. Okay, the only thing that we're having a problem with focus question is the fact that the clearly phrased, concise, researchable part might be problematic. So I read it and then I go like, can I determine that research must be done for me to be able to get the answer? Then I'll give them that clearly phrased, concise, researchable question. So there's many questions that can be asked, but I find that if you need to research the question, I'll give you that mark. Marika, just show us the marking rubric. Okay, so clearly phrased, concise, question will be researchable, single sentence is easy, and it's relevant to the focus point of the scenario. In other words, clearly phrased, concise means that I can understand what needs to be researched. The second one is, will the question be researchable? So firstly, can I understand what will be researched? With the second one is, it is going to be answered. Then the single sentence is one sentence. I mean, if there's a single sentence and this question is not very clear, then you'll get the third mark but not the first mark. If the question is a single sentence but it's not going to be researchable, you'll get the third mark but not the second mark. Do you get how that works? So these are not linked together. Remember, they need to get part marks on certain things. So in other words, if one of the things is incorrect, then obviously it's going to be a problem for one of the criteria, but not all. Okay, the table is given. Give your learners the table. It's in the folder that the subject advisors shared with you. Let's move on. Okay, the levels are clear. Just be careful not to give the level marks if the levels are not according to the criteria. What I mean is some learners will go level 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then it looks as if it's 3 levels, but it's not actually 3 levels. So you need to check which words are used and then allocate the marks according to that level. Some kids are going to say the Y is a level 3, but that's not the case. The Y is a level 2. So you can't look at what the learners are giving so that you give the marks. 3 categories. Let's just make this clear. These 3 categories that we're referring to will become the 3 headings in the discussion, underneath the discussion heading. In other words, you've got the headings, introduction, task definition, you've got discussion and analysis, you've got findings, you've got conclusion. Those categories that you are referring to here are each going to be a heading below body or discussion and analysis. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask the learners to give you the three headings and then kind of force them immediately to go to discussion and analysis and then put those 3 headings there. That's why we only want 3, because those 3 things will become headings eventually, right? These are not 3 findings. I need to just make that clear. Categories are going to be 3 headings. It's not 3 findings, okay? Right, here's examples of categories. Ask your learners to use these categories, especially the weaker learners. The background of social media, the reasons why social media is dangerous, and what could the solutions be of identity theft, or what's the cost for apps if you want to protect your identity, or what's the impact. This year it lends itself nicely to the impact. So you can go with a background, impact and solutions, or you can go with impact, cost and solutions, or you can go with community involvement in your school of protecting privacy, or whatever that the categories you choose could be. It's not all, and that's not it. They can use different categories if they choose to. Okay, note, these categories will become headings. So I'm just focusing on the issues we picked up during provincial moderation. Some examples of which questions could fit into which categories. Basically what you're doing is you've got an introduction and a task definition, a discussion and an analysis with 3 headings, and some of the questions will be answered underneath those headings. I just want to make this clear because we're finding problems at provincial. The 3 categories become 3 headings below discussion and analysis. The 3 headings have questions that fit the heading, if I can call it that. Later on in phase 1, you're going to get answers to the questions. So those answers to the questions will then become the content of the heading. Am I making sense? So we've got the 3 categories, which becomes 3 headings under discussion and analysis. The 3 headings will have questions from the table that match the category or the heading. It's the same thing. And those categories will all have questions that are answered. The answers of those questions will go below the heading. That's where your content, your body comes from. Am I making sense? I hope so. Right, then marks. 10 questions, it's relevant to the topic, 3 different levels. Remember I said the levels shouldn't be what they think, the levels should be what we think, ne? And then the categories. Sources, we're giving them sources, ne? So they need to just find the 3 that they're going to use or other. exclude the questionnaire. The questionnaire is not one of the sources. It's 3 sources that has been given to them, or 2 that has been given to them and 1 that they got themselves. Up to you. Okay. Then you put the 3 sources into the report, into the table, into the report. So sources for each question, all 10 questions are included, 2 websites, 1 other, and the 1 other is not a questionnaire. Okay, am I clear? Then you could let them fill this into the table, the author, the website, the date created, the date accessed, the URL, or you could alternatively let them put it in the bibliography, make a screenshot of the bibliography and paste that into the table. Okay, the point is there should be 3 sources evaluated like this, not 10. Okay, so all the information for all 3 the sources must be provided for them to get all their marks. Okay, let's go on. So yeah, all the information for all 3 the sources must be there for them to get their marks. Please make sure that your learners understand that we only want 3 sources. We don't want 5 sources. And you're going to have a table with 10 questions. Each question will have a source, but the sources can be repeated. I'm not going to say they have to not. They must be repeated because we only want 3 sources. Okay. Then just some of the marks. It's all aspects for at least 2, for example, or 4 or 5 aspects for 3. So it's either all for 2 or some for 3. You get? It's either all for 1 and 1 for all. It's either all for 1 or some for 2. All right? Then they get the marks. Then we sort the sources. Claire indicated that there's a Mendeley reference manager that nicely sorts the sources. If you've got access to it and your internet is okay in your class and you really want to go ahead and teach them something new, you are welcome to use this Mendeley reference manager. What it does is it kind of puts all your sources together for you in a location and with the bibliography and everything. But like I said, we're not too worried about the outcome. We're more worried about the process. Okay. Then the bibliographical, I told you can go and read if you want more. And then the quality of the information needs to be evaluated. For how many? For 3. Right? So don't let your kids use more than 3 sources, because the more sources they use, the more work they have to do. All right. How do we evaluate? We look at the following: authority, currency, accuracy, objectivity, and coverage. For how many sources? For 3 sources. Which 3 sources? The same ones you got author, date access, URL for. So if you've got 3 sources, what I would do is I will merge that one and only have the 3 sources. Okay? That column for the table, I'll merge it and let it only be 3 and not 10 like we have it currently, but that's all up to you. Okay. It says what authority is, what currency is, what accuracy is, what objectivity is, and what coverage is. I just need to note that this is the content that you need to teach for paper 2. What do we assess in PAT? We assess the process. Okay, so here we check, did they know that they needed to go and do the authority, whatever. Accuracy, what does it mean? Why do we check it, etc. No one-word answers, and then it does give you some information about what is authority, what is currency, who does the source focus on, and it gives you examples in the PAT, right? So the kids can just basically go and see what they need to do, and can I just say paraphrase, rephrase, whatever's here. And then you give the marks for, note, table completed for at least 2 websites and 1 other source for all these. So 3 sources, everything for them to get this. So if they've got 3 sources and they've got all 3 authorities, you'll give the mark. If they've got 3 sources and they've got 2 authorities, first mark not given. So Yeah, I hear some of you are saying, but that's unfair. You need to show them what to do. So you need to tell them what the marks are for. So tell them if you don't have 3 authorities and 3 currencies and 3 accuracies and 3 objectivities and 3 coverage, you don't get these marks. Okay, then now we're going to use the information. You don't need this print-friendly thing anymore because all the sources have been given to you. But if there are kids that go and find more sources, then obviously they can use the print-friendly. Now, at the end, there's a summary. The last column is a summary. What is the summary? The summary is the answer to the question in the table. In other words, there's a question with a category, with an answer. What is the category? The category becomes the headings. What goes below the headings in discussion and analysis? The answer to the question that you've researched, which comes from the summary, right? So basically, we want them to answer the questions in their own words. And then sommer, go and copy it into underneath the headings under discussion and analysis, because that's basically what's going to happen in phase 3, right? Summaries for all the questions, summaries available, information is relevant, all summaries are in learners' own works. Here you catch them nicely because you know what they can talk in English and what language skills they've got and what not. Ne? Okay, and then I said now, I think I explained it nicely. Sorry, the marks. Last mark only, ne? Evidence of sources. Please, for provincial moderation, they only need 3 sources. Don't let them copy all the sources into their research folders. Because if they copy all the sources into the research folders and you need to write it on a CD, it takes millions of years to copy. And we're marking online, so we need to upload it to the cloud store, and that takes even 3 million years longer. So they only need 3 sources. Let them only have 3 sources in the resources folder. Okay, and then the body, remember we've got discussion and analysis in a style now. Then we've got the first heading in a different style. Heading number 2 in a different style. It's a category, ne? Heading number 3 in a different style. Below the heading number 1, we've got content, which comes from summary of information. And the body, that content should be, font should be easy to read, what. Okay? Phase 3 marks. Body text is easily distinguished from headings. All body text is left aligned or justified.